Hello again and welcome back to Marketing with Purpose. My name is Monica Pitts and today I have with me the fabulous wearer of many hats from May Create Web Design, Stacy Brockmeyer.
Hey friends.
Now we are joining together today in an effort to put this public service announcement out to everyone to protect your websites. There is nothing worse than a website getting hacked.
Hackers suck. They're like the armpit of humans.
You feel victimized. It's like having someone break into your house or your car and steal something. But it's worse because you're not just out these physical possessions. You have to figure out how to remedy this really, really yucky situation. And we just actually had a client this week who we don't maintain their site for them. We just do very occasional things. They don't allow us to do regular updates on the site or host it. And they got hacked and it took us all week to fix it.
Actually, we didn't even get it fixed. It is unfixable. So we have to rebuild it. Unfixable.
I didn't know that. Oh, that's so sad.
They're going to have like a splash page until we can get it all fixed up.
This could happen to you, friends, if you do not protect your websites.
Don't be that person.
And there's this other time when somebody didn't protect their website and it got hijacked by pornographers.
Yeah, that was really, really something.
That was a really interesting cleanup crew on that one. Man. Okay, so let's dig in and talk about the number one way that you can protect your website from hackers. You're on a mission, and you just need more people to know about it. And whether you're brand new to marketing or a seasoned pro, we are all looking for answers to make marketing decisions with purpose. I'm Monica Pitts, a techie, crafty business owner, mom, and aerial dancer who solves communication challenges through technology. This podcast is all about digging in and going digital. I'll share my marketing know-how and business experience from almost 20 years of misadventures. I'll be your backup dancer, so you can stop doubting and get moving towards marketing with purpose. Now, as we dig into the number one way to protect your website from hackers, and then also multiple other ways that you can keep your site safe, we're going to tell you some war stories because Stacy and I like to tell stories. And I don't want you to feel like we are negligent web designers. The people that we are telling these stories on, we gave a choice. We gave them the choice of whether or not we as a company would take care of all of their software updates for them or whether they would like to manage it on their own. We believe in giving people choices. And sometimes they make a choice that isn't really the right choice for them. Like they want to save money, so they don't want us to update their website for them. So back in the day, this choice was much more democratic, shall we say. We really, really gave people the option as to whether or not we updated their website. Now, we are building ourselves a new website, and I just wrote this fabulous little piece of content to tell people the story of why we started our service, which is called Safe Site Plan, to keep websites up to date, their softwares and their plugins, and why we did this and made it really more or less mandatory for our clients. I'm going to read it to you now. Once upon a time, a fearless May Create leader had a baby. That's me. I'm the May Create leader that had a baby. That was back in yesteryear when May Create clients were asked to keep their sites updated on their own. I'm using air quotes around that, keep their sites updated on their own, but alas, they did not. When the leader returned from the babe's delivery, hacker pirates descended on the poop deck, not to change diapers, but to hack the sites of the non-updated. Thus, on the heels of maternity leave, the Safe Site Plan was born to shelter new mothers and business owners alike from the piratical tyranny of those freaking idiot hackers. Can I get a yeah?
Woohoo!
Okay, so story time's over. Basically, we had like a slew of sites that just got all hacked at once, and they were all hacked because their software was not updated. Stacy, will you please explain to them what I am saying?
So your website is likely built on a piece of software. The software that we use is called WordPress. It's an open source software. We use plugins to extend the features. And if those are not kept up to date, it's sort of like keeping your computer up to date. Either you can't add new stuff or you're going to get hacked. And so when those little Microsoft updates pop up, you always say yes. And we need to do the same thing for your website.
WordPress is an open source software, and so there are a bunch of programmers who literally donate their time to maintain the security of the system, and they release regular updates. So when a site is compromised, they figure out what happened, and then they ask themselves, is there something that we could have done to make this safer? And then they do that, and they release it to all the different WordPress users, and you can maintain the site that way. So, the number one way that you can protect your website from hackers is
updating your software
and plugins. Da, 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 da. So that's it. Like, that's the number one way. And in WordPress, it's pretty easy to do. Like, you click the update button, you hope you don't break anything, or you back up your site first and then you click the update button. So that way, if and when you break things, you can roll it back and then do it much more systematically to figure out what in the world is breaking what. And I'm making this sound really scary, aren't I, right now?
Regular updates and regular backups are your friend.
Totally your friend. I mean, that's why we have a cloud system on our phones, right?
Yep.
I mean, you don't just want to lose all of your pictures because you dropped your phone in a toilet. This is the same thing.
Oh, man. There was a time in college that I dropped 2 phones in the toilet in 3 weeks.
Oh, what were you doing?
Drinking.
Of course, I shouldn't even have asked.
I was in college.
I know. That's what people do. They either get an MRS degree or do a lot of those curls. Those 8-ounce curls.
Yeah, 12-ounce curls. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, 12. Let's see. I drank mixed drinks. No, I'm kidding. I drank beer and mixed drinks. I was a bartender. I digress. Anyway, so there are some other things outside of just maintaining your software that you can do to keep your website protected from hackers. We just talked about plugins. Stacy talked about plugins. She said that you have to keep them up to date. So the plugins are the same thing as your WordPress software. They have regular releases to keep them protected from hackers and keep them safe, but also to keep them compatible with the mother software. So for us, WordPress, because if WordPress changes, the plugin has to change with it to make sure they still work together. But not all developers keep their plugins up to date. So, Stacy, if you have a plugin that hasn't been updated in the last year or maybe even, some of them they never get updated again. What do you do with those things?
You replace them with something that is a much more viable, safe option for your website. And also, if you're a serial plugin adder, we have a lot of clients who like to maintain their own site and they like to add plugins and do new things on their own. Make sure that when you add those in WordPress, it says has been updated in the last, 6 months.
At least. And a lot of them should be updated even more often than that, depending upon what they're doing.
Most of the ones that we use are have been updated in the last 3 weeks.
Exactly. I was going to say 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Yes. And then 2, there are certain plugins that you just use for a limited amount of time. For example, we use maintenance mode, which is a plugin that keeps the rest of the website locked down and just shows a pretty splash page. If you're installing that at the beginning of your web development process to have a splash page up, you need to uninstall it once you take your site live. And another one that we use a lot is a find and replace plugin. It works just like you think it does. Control F on a screen in your browser. You type in a word, it will find it, it will replace it. Well, here's the deal though. If you have that installed in your website and a hacker gets in and they get access to that, they can find and replace whatever they want real fast. That's a bad deal. So you need to make sure that you delete that sucker. Now, Stacy is our domain name lady. She does a lot of domain name management, and she helps people choose their domain names. And so she has some advice for us about what types of domain names you might choose.
One of the biggest things is look at your domain name from the lens of the people who are going to your site. Make sure it doesn't spell something maybe it shouldn't spell. Or make sure it doesn't spell something funny. Like, so my favorite example, the cleanest example I have is I am in an organization with a company that's called the Delta Companies. And their domain name is Delta Cos. Well, it spells Del Tacos. So their domain name is deltacos.com. And it's super funny. I love it. I will always remember their domain name. So maybe they did a really good job picking it. But make sure that it doesn't spell something awkward.
Like Penn Island. Write it out. You'll know what it spells when you write it out. But that is a domain name that hackers are going to want, and they're going to target you. So just start from the very beginning with a nice, clean domain name. Now, another thing that we see a lot in sites that we take over, but we don't ever do ourselves, is the username admin to log someone into a site. You never want to use the username admin because that's something that's super easy to guess, right? So use a username that's unique that people can't guess. Now, another really simple thing that you can do to protect your site from hackers is something that our hosting company does really well.
So they provide our password. So that's one thing. They want to make sure that everything is super safe on their end. And it's for relatively common words that are strung together in one long password without spaces. So basically 4 regular words that have capital letters in them that are strung together. And it's super safe because nobody ever would guess that those random words would be strung together in a password.
One thing that we also like to do is replace vowels with symbols. We think that's very fun.
Monica, you're giving away our secrets.
Well, but it's really fun, and you could do it, and then your password would be better because every word has vowels.
It does.
I didn't tell them what. Hey, we do not use one in place of I because that is stupid because it looks like I and it looks like L and it looks like one. It's like an accessibility nightmare. So we're not doing that.
Yeah.
Okay, so another thing that we do for all of our websites is we move the location of their login page. So for WordPress, the default admin URL to log into your site is wp-admin. So none of our sites have that as the default login because, like, why? If if I know that and I can just tell you and you can look it up anywhere, like, why would you leave it? Change it so that way they can't get in there.
It's always kind of fun to have to go to a Fortune 500 company and you know it's built on WordPress and you click /wp-admin and it's like you would think that there would be safer than that, but they're not.
No, lock your doors, people. Lock your doors.
So the last thing that we have for you today is your website needs to have an SSL certificate. So there's a couple facets with that. What is an SSL certificate? And it is a piece of code that is on your website that encrypts your website files. So like, do you watch NCIS or CSI or whatever? And they're like, it's encrypted. I don't know how to get into it. It makes it much harder to hack and harder to open. So we want to have an SSL certificate. And then the second reason is that Google requires it. Oftentimes they won't show your website without an error code if you don't have it. So it's just a good practice all around and it keeps you safe.
And you can tell if your website has an SSL certificate, just open it up in a browser and in the address bar at the very top on the far left, if it has an SSL certificate on it, it will have a little padlock. And also if you copy and paste the domain out of your browser into something else, you will see HTTPS as opposed to HTTP. If it just says HTTP, then you do not have a certificate on there. And that's not good. Like, especially if you're accepting information from people or payments on your website, you definitely want to have an SSL certificate to make sure that everybody stays safe. So what's pretty cool about this, friends, is that none of these things that we just listed off are that hard, are they?
They're not hard. They just have to be done.
Yeah, they're kind of common sense things, and I'm sure that you have actually thought of some of these before, but let me list them off really quickly for you guys before we leave. So the number one way to protect your website from hackers is...
update your software and plugins.
Boom. Also, replace outdated plugins that haven't been maintained. Uninstall any unused plugins. Don't choose a domain name that spells something naughty. Don't ever use the username admin. Choose a strong password. Move the location of your login page. And last but not least, have an SSL certificate. If you have not implemented these things on your site already, please do it, because offense is the only way that you're going to win against these hacker, idiot, pirate creatures that are going to make you feel so angry and vulnerable and cost you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to fix your site in the long run. And you know what I hate doing? I hate unhacking sites, and so does everyone else on my staff. No one, it doesn't even matter that you're paying us. We don't want to do it because it sucks.
It's absolutely miserable, and it's always an emergency, and who likes to have emergencies all the time?
Not these kinds of emergencies. I'd like to have an emergency like, ooh, I ran out of Coca-Cola, or, oh, emergency, I found a $20 bill in my pocket. That's an emergency.
Yeah, that sounds like a great emergency. I love that.
When I used to bartend, I would put my tips in my pocket, and then I would wash my clothes without taking them out, and I would put the pants back on like days later and find the money again, and it was like the best kind of emergency.
Christmas.
I know, it was like Christmas every time. Okay, friends, so keep your site safe from hackers. And if you want the transcript for this podcast episode, hop on over to mayecreate.com. That's MAYECREATE.com for this and other riveting website related and marketing related knowledge. So until next time, go forth and market with purpose.